All right, so I'm starting with a QuickBooks Online Plus subscription. This is a demo account. And if I go over into my books review, I've got a client who has came to me and they've said, I need to have my books cleaned up. They're a hot mess. And so I can gain access to that client as an accountant. And then now I have all of my accountant tools, including this center called Books Review. Inside of the books review, the thing that was added this year is setup. So inside of the setup area, this is where I can come in and I can look at my opening balances and I can determine, are those correct or not? You know, one thing that I might look at is, oh my gosh, some of these have never been reconciled. And so that would be a red flag to me immediately that this client is going to need some work. But maybe my start off point is, last year. And so maybe I'm starting off from there or at the beginning of this year. So whatever that date range is, you could take that bank statement and you could actually come over into QuickBooks and you could say that actually beginning balance was $500 instead of being the $671.86. And now I can tab over and I can see immediately what's happened is the difference of adjustment is now inside of my right-hand column. Now, where do you post it? So I know there's lots of varying different views about where you would post this adjustment. Some people are going to say prior year adjustment. Some people are going to say opening and beginning balance. So you get to have choices here. So no reason to fight. So I can throw it into whatever account that I want to place it in. And I can do the same type of adjustment for every single one of the beginning balances that I'm starting off with. So that's a really easy way to sorry, I gotta make my little check mark there. Oh, and I have another one down here that I wanted to show you. I had came over, set it up, and then I wasn't quite sure that I wanted to do it yet. And so I can come back and I can see my work was actually saved. So the thing that I'm looking at is the petty cash of $67,000. Probably not true. If it's true, then I want to be their friend. So what you can do is put in the beginning balance. And then now I can say, look, there's this adjustment. And again, you can determine where do you want to put that? Is that going to be a draw or whatever it's going to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and say add adjustment. And now my journal entry is here and I can date however, and then I can save and close. So this adjustment has now been posted. And I can see that my difference and my amounts are now captured. The next thing that I can do is I can come over and I can look at cleaning up additional transactions. So throughout the year, I've got a client, they've been using their QuickBooks and bank feeds and say that they've got some transactions that do not have names. That would be an area that I could come into QuickBooks and start to review. So if I come over and I look at one, I could categorize a transaction. So this is just an easy way to come over and reclass any transactions that might need to be done. You can do this in bulk. I've got one transaction here that needs to be reclassed. I could open it up and I could look to see what it is. I just happen to know that this needs to be supplies, add in my account, and now I have 0 uncategorized transactions. The next thing that I can do is I can come over and I can start to look at, these are all the transactions that don't have payees. Why is this important? Because, I know sometimes we get asked this question of, why does it matter if it doesn't have a vendor name? My response is, it really goes back to, how are you scrutinizing the books? What kind of review are you doing? And when you're talking about 1099s, it's really important that any of those checks that slipped through that didn't get a vendor, they need a vendor now. So if you've got any type of transactions and you're doing a year-end review or a month-end review, and you want to go in and start adding transaction payees in bulk, you can actually do that inside of this area. If I come through and I want to go to, let's see, I had a particular group of transactions I wanted to show you. Let's first start off with coming over into the banking center. And let's add a transaction without a payee. So if I come over here and I say, I don't know this payee, maybe it gets added by the client and they're adding it quickly. And now I'm looking at a transaction 1129. Let's go back over and let's make sure that I had through November. That was my issue right there, guys. I was trying to figure out why I couldn't see those transactions. Okay, so I just added this 1129 transaction. I would actually have to open this transaction up to be able to see who was this transaction to. So I can see it was a gas station here, and I go, oh, okay, all right, so it's fuel. There we go. And then I can save and close. The other thing that's pretty cool here is if you have enabled inside of your bank feeds to use the bank detail to copy it over into the memo field, you don't actually have to open up the transaction itself. What you can do is just use this memo field to be able to say, okay, I'm able to add a payee very easily. I can see right there in the memo field that it says Sam's. I can add that vendor right to that transaction. So if you're wondering how do you enable this memo field, then let me come over here and I can show you. I'm inside of my bank feeds. I'm going over to the little gear so I can change my settings here. And the option to copy bank detail to a memo is what I'm going to choose. So before I click it, let me show you what this looks like. If I open up this transaction and I look at the memo field, it's blank, but I do see this bank detail. That memo field will stay blank unless we come over to our little memo field over here, copy bank detail to the memo field, and now it's been filled in with that information. And again, if I was to not add a payee here and add this transaction and I go back over to our expenses, I'm going to be able to see that new transaction that has been added and enter it into QuickBooks with that memo field. So hopefully everybody has learned a new trick and that you're able to go and categorize by bulk. You're able to place in beginning balances and then also add transactions to payees. And then I would also encourage you to go through and look at the wrap-up tasks for each of your clients, because these are really good tools to walk you through what accounts have been reconciled, any type of final review, so accounts payable that might be old. These are all things that need to be looked at whenever you are wrapping up a client's year end.